Good morning. My name is David Harrell, and on behalf of the First Unitarian Church of Wilmington, Delaware, I welcome you to our online worship service. The First Unitarian Church is a welcoming congregation, no matter your race, no matter your creed, no matter your political affiliation, no matter your financial situation, and no matter whom you love, you are welcome here. This morning we are pleased to have Reverend Andrew Weber back in our pulpit. Reverend Andrew is a proud, lifelong Unitarian Universalist, currently living in Newark, Delaware with his wife and 2 children, and is the travel program director with the Unitarian Universalist Partner Church Council. Check out his online blog called How to Drive Like a Minister. Thank you for being with us again this month, Reverend Andrew. And now, let us prepare our hearts and minds for worship.
Good morning. I'm Kathy Harris, the music director at First Unitarian Church. I wanted to take a moment this morning to introduce you to our guest musician who will be playing the organ. His name is Bruce Barber. Bruce is the director of music at Christ Church Christiana 100 in Greenville. Bruce and I have known each other for many years. We were in graduate school together at Yale University, where he was studying organ in the Institute for Sacred Music, and I was in the opera program in the School of Music at Yale. Somehow we managed to stay in touch all these years, and now we find ourselves both in Wilmington, which is wonderful. So I thought it would be great to bring him in to play what he calls our wonderful little Rieger organ. So I know that you will enjoy his playing this morning.
Yes. Wow, thank you. Call to worship today is from Ellen Goodman. This is the normal, the pre-pandemic normal, which still has parallels for today. Normal is getting dressed in clothes that you buy for work, driving through traffic in a car that you are still paying for in order to get to a job that you need so you can pay for the clothes, car, and house that you have that you leave empty all day in order to afford to live in it. We come together this and every morning to stretch ourselves to go beyond normal. We come together that we might be more aware. We might be more mindful of the life we are living and the truth that we promote. So come, Let us worship together.
If you have a chalice at home, I invite you to join me by lighting it while I read our chalice lighting words written by Katie McPhee entitled, Light is Returning. Around us, light is returning. It rekindles the spirit of life and the skeletons of the trees. It brings forth new shoots from the soil. It wakes us from our winter slumber and invites us to see what lies beyond. We light this chalice in the spirit of our Earth's awakening and to reaffirm our commitment to the value of our home. Please join me in affirming our mission. First Unitarian Church of Wilmington is a beloved community that nourishes minds and spirits, fights injustice, and transforms the world through loving action.
Good morning. The book we are going to share today is called Amazing Grace. It's by Mary Hoffman, illustrated by Caroline Binch. And actually, this is one of LeVar Burton's favorite children's illustrated books. So if you know LeVar Burton from Reading Rainbow, this is one of his favorites. Amazing Grace. Grace was a girl who loved stories. She didn't mind if they were read to her, or told to her, or made up in her own head. She didn't care if they were from books or movies or out of Nana's long memory. Grace just loved stories. After she had heard them, and sometimes while they were still going on, Grace would act them out. And she always gave herself the most exciting part. Grace went into battle as Joan of Arc and wove a wicked web as Anansi the spider. She hid inside the wooden horse at the gates of Troy. She went exploring for lost kingdoms. She sailed the 7 seas with a peg leg and a parrot. She was Aladdin, rubbing his magic lamp to make the genie appear, and Mowgli in the backyard jungle. Most of all, Grace loved to act out adventure stories and fairy tales. When there was no one else around, Grace played all the parts herself. She set out to seek her fortune with no companion but her trusty cat, and found a city with streets paved in gold. Sometimes she could get Ma and Nana to join in when they weren't too busy. Then she was Dr. Grace, and their lives were in her hands. One day, Grace's teacher said that they would do the play Peter Pan. Grace knew who she wanted to be. When she raised her hand, Raj said, "You can't be Peter, that's a boy's name." But Grace kept her hand up. "You can't be Peter Pan," whispered Natalie. "He isn't black." But Grace kept her hand up. "All right," said the teacher, "lots of you want to be Peter Pan, so we'll have to have auditions next week to choose parts." She gave them words to learn. When Grace got home, she seemed sad. "What's the matter?" asked Ma. "Raj said I couldn't be Peter Pan because I'm a girl." "That just shows what Raj knows," said Ma. "A girl can be Peter Pan if she wants to." Grace cheered up. Then later she remembered something else. "Natalie says I can't be Peter Pan because I'm black," she said. Ma looked angry. But before she could speak, Nana said, "It seems Natalie is another one who don't know nothing. You can be anything you want, Grace, if you put your mind to it." On Saturday, Nana told Grace they were going out. In the afternoon, they caught a bus and train into town. Nana took Grace to a grand theater. The sign outside said, "Rosalie Wilkins in Romeo and Juliet," in sparkling lights. "Are we going to the ballet, Nana?" asked Grace. "We are, honey, but first, I want you to look at this picture." Grace looked up and saw a beautiful young ballerina in a tutu. Above the dancer it said, "Stunning New Juliet." "That one is little Rosalie from back home in Trinidad," said Nana. "Her granny and me, we grew up together on the island. She's always asking me, do I want tickets to see her Rosalie dance? So this time, I said yes." After the ballet, Grace played the part of Juliet, dancing around her room in her imaginary tutu. "I can be anything I want," she thought. On Monday, the class met for auditions to choose who was best for each part. When it was Grace's turn to be Peter, she knew exactly what to do and all the words to say. She had been Peter Pan all weekend. She took a deep breath and imagined herself flying. When it was time to vote, the class chose Raj to be Captain Hook and Natalie to be Wendy. There was no doubt who would be Peter. Everyone voted for Grace. "You were fantastic," whispered Natalie. The play was a big success, and Grace was an amazing Peter Pan. After it was all over, she said, "I feel as if I could fly all the way home." "You probably could," said Ma. "Yes," said Nana. "If Grace put her mind to it, she can do anything she wants." The end. Please pray with me and then join in a time of shared silence. This prayer, "Now I Become Myself" by May Sarton. Now I become myself. It's taken time, many years and places. I have been dissolved and shaken, worn other people's faces, run madly as if time were there, terribly old, crying a warning, "Hurry, you will be dead before..." What? Before you reach the morning, or the end of the poem is clear, or love safe in a walled city? Now to stand still, to be here, feel my own weight and density. The black shadow on the paper is my hand, the shadow of a word, as thought shapes the shaper. Falls heavy on the page is heard. All fuses now, falls into place from wish to action, word to silence. My work, my love, my time, my face, gathered into one intense gesture of growing like a plant, as slowly as the ripening fruit, fertile, detached, and always spent, falls but does not exhaust the root. So all the poem is, can give, grows in me to become the song, made so and rooted by love. Now there is time, and time is young. Oh, in this single hour I live, all of myself, and do not move. I, the pursued who madly ran, stand still, and stop the sun. Amen. We come together each week for ourselves, but also for others. This time together is a holy time. We're connected by technology, even though we are apart physically. And we're together in our thoughts. We're together in our feelings. And as is our custom each Sunday, we take a moment to remember those who are in our hearts, those who are celebrating, those who are mourning, those who are hurt, those who are in need. You might be in need of healing, of calming energy. Your loved ones may be heavy on your heart today. There might be a friend who could use a hug. And you might be joyous and excited today. Your family may be happy, healthy, and together. There may be a friend who is celebrating, whether for yourself, for a friend, for a family member. This is the time to bring special attention to those we love. Let us lift up and remember the overabundant joy, the happiness which comes pouring out of all life. Let us also recognize the deep sadness, the deep heartache which also must be shared. Through our heart thoughts, through our actions, happiness is increased and sorrow lessened. Take this moment to speak aloud or hold silently in your mind those who are in your heart today. Bring them light. Hold them dear. Amen. Let us now have a time of musical meditation where we continue to remember those who have been called into this special and holy time. Our reading today is from my colleague, the Reverend Victoria Safford. It's called Set in Stone. In a cemetery once, an old one in New England, I found a strangely soothing epitaph. The name of the deceased and her dates had been scoured away by wind and rain, but there was a carving of a tree with roots and branches, a classic 19th century motif, and among them the words, "She attended well and faithfully to a few worthy things." At first, this seemed to me a little meager, a little stingy on the part of her survivors, but I wrote it down, and I've thought about it since, and now I can't imagine a more proud or satisfying legacy. She attended well and faithfully to a few worthy things. Every day I stand in danger of being struck by lightning and having the obituary in the local paper say, for all the world to read, she attended frantically and ineffectually to a great many unimportant, meaningless details. How do you want your obituary to read? He got all the dishes washed and dried before playing with his children in the evening. She balanced her checkbook with meticulous precision and never missed a day of work. Missed a lot of sunsets, missed a lot of love, missed a lot of risk, missed a lot, but her money was in order. She answered all her calls, all her email, all her voicemail, but along the way she forgot to answer the call to service and compassion and forgiveness, first and foremost of herself. He gave and forgave sparingly, without radical intention, without passion or conviction. She could not or would not hear the calling of her heart. How will it read? How does it read? And if you had to name a few worthy things to which you attend well and faithfully, what, I wonder, would they be? This is not an easy piece to hear. I find it challenging both to me personally, also to our culture, to society at large. We are told that our personal value is equal to how much we do. Even though the pandemic, the push is, even through the pandemic, it changed a little right at the beginning. We're like, take it easy, stay at home, but through, it keeps coming. It keeps coming. Through the pandemic is push to work, push to be productive, do things, have tasks. Thankfully, through this cultural push, through our push to ourselves, thankfully we are challenged by words like these. Thankfully, we are challenged by our faith. We are challenged by Unitarian Universalism being countercultural. For part of our faith is specifically going against the culture's view of worthiness defined by production. Everyone has inherent worth and dignity. Not just those who are busy, not just those who are producing. That can be easy to say. That's really easy to say. Everyone has inherent worth and dignity, but it's sometimes very hard to hear, to take in. Are you out of work? Are you unable to do what others ask of you? You are still a human being. You are still worthy of love. It's hard to be countercultural, and every time we buy into this value of more and more, we are at risk of pushing ourselves and pushing others to have an epitaph which reads, she attended frantically and ineffectually to a great many unimportant, meaningless details. I find myself often concerned with and bound by what would be considered these meaningless details. There's always something more I could be doing. I have a to-do list which is never empty. I mark stuff off, but the tasks keep getting added. It's very easy to put one more thing on. Our jobs, schoolwork, our finances, house projects. And at least for me, I know I've taken on myself or have been given enough tasks to last more than just my lifetime. Now, in a sense, that's a little bit liberating. I have too much stuff to do. I can never reach the end, so I don't have to worry about getting to the end. It's liberating. But in another way, that's quite overwhelming. There's no end in sight. No end of all the stuff we could be doing, all the stuff we maybe should be doing. So what do we do about that? Well, we make priorities. I mean, that's no like great leap of faith. We decide what we do first. We decide what we do second. We decide what we can't do, what has to be left undone. And the danger in making these decisions, making these priorities, is that what we do, what we prioritize, it's often unspoken, often an unspoken priority, and sometimes those priorities are unconscious. Because there's a danger here. There's a danger in unconscious priorities, because items may be getting marked off that unending list of to-do, but what is left off? What haven't we gotten to? Sometimes the unimportant, meaningless details take precedent, while intimate and holy interactions, which are the essence of being human, get left off. This is when we act on our priorities, which we aren't consciously thinking about, which we aren't being mindful about, when our energy is going toward those meaningless details and not to those few worthy things. Now, part of what I'm saying is that we need to be conscious, we need to be mindful about our priorities, about what we're doing, and then we need to act on them mindfully. But making conscious decisions about our priorities gets to a deeper and more religious question very quickly. For there is no way to assign objective weight to everything that comes your way. And there shouldn't be. That wouldn't make sense to just say, well, objectively, this is a 1, that's a 3, I'm going to do it in this order. That doesn't make sense. The crux isn't how your priorities are different. The crux isn't how they're the same to mine or same to someone else or different from someone else. What's imperative is that we've thought about our priorities. We've thought about them, and we're able to make mindful decisions about our actions and what we're doing, because thinking about what we want to do with our lives, thinking about where we want to put our energy, that's how we start to become or continue to become the people we want to be. Being aware and mindful is how we live our truest and our best lives. Listen to this quote from Wolfgang von Goethe. Things which matter most must never be at the mercy of things which matter least. Things which matter most must never be at the mercy of things which matter least. We want to make sure that when we think about our actions, when we put our life force towards something, we're doing what we want to be doing rather than what we don't want to be doing. The rationale is that we become more and more our true selves, that we will live our lives. And it has to do with how others view you too. Your relationships, your family, your friends, acquaintances. Here I'm going to switch a little bit. I'm going to switch from minister to motivational speaker. Check this, watch this. Do you want to surround yourself with friends? Do you want to have others enjoy being around you? Do you want to find romance and be well loved? Well, I have a secret to get people to like you. I mean, it's actually, I'm playing this up, right? But there's a really easy way to attract like-minded people, to attract positivity, to attract supportive relationships. And for here, I look to the sort of scripture of Disney. If we remember the 1992 movie Aladdin, where a poor boy was trying to win the heart of Princess Jasmine. Now, in order to gain her love and affection, Aladdin used a magic lamp, and he disguised himself. He disguised who he was, and he came off as a famous and powerful Prince Ali. This is the Prince Ali, wonderful he, Ali Ababa. That's the one, right? And at one point, the shape-shifting genie in the lamp, which is portrayed by the amazingly talented, sorely missed Robin Williams, the genie says, "Be yourself. Be yourself. He also turns into a little bee, a little play on words there. Essentially, stop trying to be someone you aren't. Stop trying to be the prince. You're not the prince. Be who you truly are. Stop this front of lies. Be yourself. Be Ali. Don't be Prince Ali. Now, who did Jasmine fall for? Who did Jasmine become friends with and want to spend more time with? The fake rich Prince Ali or the real poor Aladdin? I don't want to ruin the ending, but being true to yourself, being true to who you are, attracts positivity, attracts other people similar to you. It can be tempting. It can be really tempting to try to be someone you're not, to gain popularity, to sort of one up on someone else or something else. But in the long run, being the best you you can is where you will gain loving relationships, is where you gain positivity. It goes for communities also. It's not just the individual, it's the community. So it's a personal and it's an organizational call and charge, because it brings us to this community, and actually any religious community, any community of faith, any community of caring. Because I used to work out at a gym, which you say, hold on, he was talking about churches. This was a community of caring where we're looking to help ourselves and each other become the best us possible. So I was working out at this gym, and they had publicized 10 reasons you should not train at this gym. Why would you do that as a marketing scam? Well, it was like a tongue-in-cheek, like, hey, this is funny, 10 reasons you shouldn't be here. But you know what happened? There was always increase in membership. Always new people walking in, and those who were there stayed and were committed not because of the advertising. It was because that gym lived its values. It said, look, we live fitness. We live community. We're going to do this. And the staff and the members and the owner were overtly and obviously true to the mission of training people to be physically fit. So it's true for gyms. It's true for individuals. It's true for churches and other organizations. When a person or a group is unapologetically genuine to who they are, when they hold true to their beliefs, they naturally attract others. With churches, it means living out the church's mission, the church's vision, beliefs, and commitments above all else. If you want to advertise, the best advertising you can do is to live out your DNA, to embody the beloved community that nourishes minds and spirits, fights injustice, and transforms the world through loving action. It's the mission of Wilmington Unitarian Church. Living that out. That's how you get more people. Those statements aren't just good things to say. This should be obvious through actions. Your mission as a faith community should be obvious just by seeing what the community does, what happens here. People who are interested in coming will come. People who are interested in joining will join if you are true to your mission and values. Now I'm talking about church growth. Check out this observation. This is from Unitarian Universalist congregations who have considerable and consistent growth. This is another colleague, Reverend Tandy Rogers, from the UUA Office for Growth Strategies. She's talking again about congregations which have grown and which continue to grow. She says, none of those thriving religious communities lead with numerical growth as the goal. They lead with doing church well. Look at that. Membership wasn't the goal. Popularity wasn't the goal. It was a byproduct. It was a byproduct of being true to themselves, of doing church well. So I am talking about church growth, but that's not the point. The point is not church growth. I don't want to talk about growing your church. I'm talking about being true to yourself. Being true to who you are, but becoming your truth self. This is about knowing who you are and living into that knowledge, living into that understanding. We strive for self-authenticity in order to have meaningful epitaph on our tombstone, and so that we have friends right? That's what I'm saying. Yeah, well, that's in a nutshell, yes, but taken theologically, being you being yourself enhances your present existence. It enhances the existence of those around you and enhances the world. You being you makes a better world. Others enjoying your company is a manifestation of that positivity. Having a meaningful saying on a tombstone is a manifestation of bettering the world. So how do we live truly and authentically? How do we do that? How do we live authentically in our true selfhood, into who I am? Well, living into our true essence necessitates knowing your true essence, knowing who you are, knowing what you believe, knowing what you want to become. And brings us to one of the most simple and most difficult questions to contemplate. Who am I? Some would say that the ability to comprehend, to come up with this question, to comprehend, to think about who am I, is what separates humans from other non-human animals. It's the very essence of our being, that ability to step outside and self-contemplate. So who are you? Who are you? What is that piece? What are those pieces, those identities which make you you? This feels like the central part of the message. This is the central part of the message, but it's also something I cannot answer for you. Who are you? What are your beliefs? What are your values? What are your identities? Do you have concealed identities which only show up in some areas of your life? Are there parts of yourself which you are still figuring out, you still have yet to discover? You are the only one who can answer these questions. What I can do, what this community can do, what your family, your friends can do is support you and challenge you in your discovery, in your becoming yourself. We are all on a lifelong path of discernment. We are all on a lifelong path of figuring out who we are. And as Shel Silverstein penned, there's a voice inside of you that whispers all day long, I feel that this is right for me. I know that this is wrong. No teacher, preacher, parent, friend, or wise man can decide what's right for you. Just listen to that voice that speaks inside. The path is varied, but we have some options. The way to know yourself is to be with yourself, to be with others, to be with yourself in silence, in prayer, in meditation, in walks in the woods, in writing or journaling or reading. To be with others in conversation, in religious community, in friendship, and in questioning and challenging. Knowing yourself means living what you feel is true and not living what you feel is false. And when we are authentically ourselves, when we are truly who we are, we make the world a better place. From our authenticity comes authentic relationships, which blossom care for the ever-increasing circles of interaction. From the wise Parker Palmer, our deepest calling is to grow into our own authentic selfhood, whether or not it conforms to some image of who we ought to be. As we do so, we not only find the joy that every human being seeks, we will also find our path of authentic service in the world. It benefits the world to have people who are true to themselves and who are living their calling. This is the crux of all faith, in my mind. This is the crux of all faith, individually, communally. How do we live our lives constantly informed by our faith? How do we become ourselves? In closing, I share an ancient Jewish story. Rabbi Zuzia, when he was an old man, said, "In the coming world, they will not ask me, 'Why were you not Moses?' or 'Why were you not Solomon?' They will say, 'Why were you not Zuzia?'" We don't need to be someone or something we are not. We are called to be ourselves, to be the best selves we can be. So be yourself. Be your true self. And be your authentic self. Amen.
Be that guide whom love sustains, rise above the daily strife. Lift on high the good you find, help to heal the hurts of life. Be that helper nothing daunts, doubt of friend or taunt of foe. Ever strive for liberty, show the path that life should go. Be that builder trusting good, bitter though the test may be. Through all ages they are right, though they build in agony. Be that teacher faith directs, move beyond the old frontier, for the fright and fear that faith be tomorrow's pioneer.
We invite you now to help support the work of our congregation. Even though we're not meeting in the church, we still have lots of work that needs to be done. Doing your part helps us to be able to provide continued services and community support. There are several ways to give as posted on your screen. The first is to mail a check directly to the church with Sunday offering written in the memo line. The second way is to give directly from our donation page with the link provided. The third way is to use the Give Plus app on your smartphone. Simply select First Unitarian Church and tap Give Now. Please join me in dedicating our offering to the work of this congregation, which is weaving a tapestry of love and action. We dedicate our lives, and these are offerings.
Don't ask what the world needs. Ask what makes you come alive and do that, because what the world needs is more people who have come alive. May today be the day that you come into your radiance, into your strength and power, and into the fullness of who and what you are. Amen.
We extinguish the chalice with the words of Deborah Burrell in her writing entitled, Kindle New Sparks. We have basked in the warmth and beauty of this flame and this community. As the chalice flame is extinguished, let us carry its glow within. Let us kindle new sparks within these walls and beyond.